All right, the Colorado Avalanche get back in the win column with a 5-2 win over the Minnesota Wild. Let's talk about it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Red Eyes Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And why not subscribe to our subtext as well? Link to that is in the show notes below. And when you do, chat with Kyle and I one-on-one and have your opinions, thoughts, everything Avalanche related read on this very podcast. All right, sir, we'll talk about this game between the Avalanche. We'll get into the Friday game against Edmonton. That's going to be, it should be an exciting one if it lives up to the last time those two teams played. And the Avalanche involved in a, I don't know, what are we calling these things? Like,
what would be the term of those?
I don't know. Like because we have like outdoor games and like, Winter Classic and stuff like that. We need to come up with a term for games that are in cartoon form.
I would say real-time animated game.
Real-time in it. That's we need to shorten that. We need something like snappy rolls out. We'll effort this, but yeah. All right. Let's dive into this game with the Minnesota Wild. Avs needed a good performance and a good comeback victory. Not come from behind fashion. I mean, a comeback victory in that you lost the one to Columbus, which is not one that you wanted to lose. And I thought for the most part they did. I thought this was a good game, an entertaining game, a back and forth game. The score would lead you to believe it was all Avalanche. I don't think it was. I think Minnesota put up a really good fight, a really good effort, and they needed to because their season is really on the line. Like, I think with this, I don't think they're officially eliminated with this loss, but it's pretty much next to an impossibility for them to really pull off a playoff spot. But I thought they played a good game. They fought, and the Avalanche battled back and grabbed the lead and didn't really let go of it. So overall, what do you think? Good game?
Yeah. Oh, and especially after on the heels of the Columbus game, you want to see games like this. And I was picking up on this about midway through the game in that lull of the second period where the Avalanche let Minnesota make it interesting. We're going to be hanging on this narrative of teams that deserve to win, who want to win, who don't need to try. Like Minnesota, this was it. They had to push. Like if they wanted a push into the playoffs, this game mattered. For the Avalanche, right. They're just playing with seeding at this point. They've already clinched. They're not falling out. It's just basically playoff opponent. Like you're playing with house money at this point. Mm-hmm. And for the Avs to continue and push, and like you mentioned, there were some bright spots. There were some ugly spots. There a mixed bag walking away from this game, but it was a healthy game. You got through with a win, 2 points, and then you're following this up in a back-to-back fashion. So you'll see how both games play out, but this is what you want to see against a rival that usually plays you a little bit physical.
Yeah, and we'll get into the game Friday against Edmonton, but because that's a whole different opponent, obviously. But is it? I have a pretty good graphic that somebody posted. I'll bring that up later on, and it tells a pretty crazy story about the Edmonton Oilers. But for Minnesota, yeah, I know they were out. They were out. Who just got suspended for them? I can't remember. Someone just got suspended for a hit. He was out 3 games. But this is the best. Like these two teams are just on different wavelengths right now. You know what I mean? And that's not to slight Minnesota. Like they're this late in the season, they're still in the mix somehow. Like they're in it to an extent. Is it a long shot? Yes, but if you played like this Avalanche team versus this Minnesota team in a playoff round, I said at the beginning of the year, after last year, being knocked out by Seattle and thinking that was going to be a 5-game series for the Avalanche, I will never again predict a playoff round involving the Avalanche or any team to be less than 7 games. I'm just letting everybody know right now, no matter who they play, doesn't matter the round, I'm going to say I have the confidence in the Avalanche right now that it's going to be Avalanche in 7, right? Don't care who the opponent is. I don't know if that's the case if it was Minnesota. I just think like that's the best you could have gotten out of Minnesota. And they're going up against Annunen, who's he's their backup, but he's playing well. We'll get to him in the next segment too. But I don't like they're not this playoff bound team where like they can give you they could best you night after night. Now you get what happened in Columbus every once in a while. So maybe if that's in a playoff series, so they get some bounces and they steal a game. But these are just like and you even saw like, and I said it before earlier in the week that even with the losses the Avalanche have had, they've really been in control a lot of these games. This one was a little bit more back and forth. They had a great first period. I don't want to say great, good first period. Second period, it was flipped. Minnesota, they can gain control. But the further you go down their roster, they struggle. And if it's not Kaprizov and that line, they don't have much. And so for the Avalanche just needed to stay committed to their game plan, continue to pepper them with shots, and it results into a 5-2 game. There was nothing about this game where I was thinking, even when they pulled the goalie with like 3 minutes left, I was not really like that. Like I wasn't on the edge of my seat as if it would be if this same thing was happening with Edmonton.
And when we were talking about the Columbus game and how the Avs outshot Columbus and they looked relatively okay to good.
Yeah.
The Avalanche had 46 shots in that game. Minnesota had 46 shots in this game.
Yeah.
And this is one of those that we were talking. That Columbus game was one the Avalanche needed. Same with Minnesota. And this is one they needed to keep everything alive, keep everything they've been trying to put together. And by the way, Zach Parise is on the other side. A Minnesota Wild, like he was an
So Brandon
institution.
Duhaime.
Yeah, and Duhaime. But
Yeah.
like Parise, it was him and Suter for a long time in Minnesota. And for them to close the door on your season, knowing it's going to be another tall task next year because you're still paying off that contract, it's rough.
It's right. It hamstrings that team. It just hamstrings them where they can't get over that hump to become a better team than they already are.
And then you're watching the Avalanche, your rival, with Parise, get guys like Jonathan Drouin. They just re-signed Chris Wagner to he's got some years of service. But he's on a league min deal. And you're seeing the Avalanche put this team together with Ross Colton. Like Ryan Johansson was a member of this team at one point. Tomas Tatar was a member of this team at one point. And then you're watching the Wild try everything they possibly can. And they're hamstrung because of these contracts. And the door is closed on their season. And next year it's going to be even more difficult because everybody else is chasing the Avalanche. And the Wild are just stuck.
Well, the Avalanche don't put themselves in those positions to not be able to offload those guys if they're not working out. And Minnesota, it's tough for them to do that right now. They just don't have the dollars to move contracts around and they rely on what they currently have and their crop of prospects, which is good, but they need time. They need time to develop, and you're seeing that. You're seeing they were somewhat prepared. We've done crossovers with Seth many times, and he's like, this is the plan. Like they haven't deviated from the plan. There maybe are even overperforming what a lot of people have thought during this time, but I can't see it getting better until those contracts are completely off the books. It's just the way it is for them right now.
And this is speaking like to the Avs walking away victorious in this game. Like, you got the best the Minnesota Wild could possibly give you all year long in that effort, because this is to be able to get into the playoffs means so much for this Wild team going forward. This is something to say, hey, just stay to the plan. But look, we got to the playoffs this one time.
Right. Yeah.
Like, this is it's a building block. And the Avalanche, even though, like, and we'll talk about stats when we get into the breakdown, there were so many opportunities the Avs could have just, and they did. They kind of coasted a little bit, and then they had to get back into it and coast and get back into it. They could have let this game get away, and not a lot of fight and not a lot of damage to be done. But for the Avalanche to stay the course and walk out with 2 points, it's a big win for the Avalanche and momentum against Edmonton.
So let's kind of get into kind of the stats and some milestones that were had during this game on the Avalanche side. So let's talk about those. We'll do that next. First, let's hear from Robinhood. And did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? And Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with that 3% match. And this offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker dealer. All right, so getting back to the game between the Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild. Let's start with Justus Annunen. Kind of figured he was going to play this game as it is a back-to-back, and Edmonton being the stronger of the opponents, you'll have your number one goalie going up against them. But another solid game by Justus Annunen. I mean, he gave up 2 goals. I have nothing wrong with the 2 goals that he gave up. And then he saved 44 shots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's tough for any goalie. So someone who's just getting like his feet wet in this league and only has a handful of games under his belt, I don't care what team it is. And I know I said like the offensive ability from Minnesota is not the best. Hey, you threw 46 shots on goal, and 2 of them found the back of the net. I thought he was great. I thought he was impressive. He had some sprawling saves. Minnesota had some point blank range shots that he saved. You're get every game that he plays, you're getting more and more confident with what he can provide you.
I really giving up that goal early put everybody on wake up call. It was like, oh, here we go again. But
It wasn't that early, was it? What time?
It was one shot. It was 1 goal off 4 shots. So once you saw that kind of even things up, you're like, you kind of brace yourself for how this game is going to go. And yes, he gave up that second one, almost gave up that third one, fielding the puck behind the net, and not knowing what to do. But all of this to say, his saves improved, his confidence grew, and in a alternate universe, this could have been a playoff team the Avalanche are facing, and this is playoff practice for when Justus is called, if he's called upon in the playoffs. He's getting to see, like we mentioned, a desperate team trying to get 2 points to stay alive. That sounds like playoff hockey to me. You're trying to stay alive in the playoffs. Justus is getting those reps. So we'll see Georgiev against the Oilers. You'll get to compare the two. Everybody gets to have your goalie representation. Here you go. If your team Georgiev or Justus, you got your guy.
Yeah.
But this is what you want to see. Like he gained confidence, made some really good saves after kind of giving some away early. He tightened up, and that's positive.
Yeah, I mean, we said it before after he signed his 2-year deal that next year is going to be exciting for the Avalanche and net for many reasons. One is just because you maybe it's looking like you have a tandem again, and if he keeps playing, he's going to get more opportunity. You're going to see him against maybe better opponents. Not that Minnesota, like you said, they were going all out because they're still fighting for a playoff spot. So you were going to get the best that they could offer. 46 shots ain't bad. And for you to stop 44 of them is pretty darn good. So next year, it's going to be this many times over. And it's going to be telling to what happens. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself 2 years from now. Because what happens, Kyle? Let's just one time. We'll get into this more in the offseason. But what if Justus Annunen plays up to par with what Alexander Georgiev is giving you? And after next year, Georgiev's contract is up. And you could let him walk if you have that much confidence in Justus Annunen. For 1 year, you get him at a minimum $825,000 for your number one goalie. That's just nutsoid. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, but that is a possibility. It is a possibility that could happen 2 years from now. We'll see.
And you say you're getting ahead of yourself, but look backwards. This happened before with Grubauer and Frankie.
And then the thing with that, like they tried to keep Grubauer. He walked to go to Seattle. But the difference is they brought somebody in right away. They went and got Darcy Kemper. They didn't turn to Frankie and be like, okay, you're the guy then. I think that's what would happen with this situation. I think if Annunen puts up a good year next year.
Now, everyone knows, everydayers, OGs of the Locked On Avalanche podcast know I was a big Frankie guy. And I have been singing the praises of Justus as well. But honestly, the performances of both Frankie and Justus have been about the same so far. And honestly, after next year, if it's about the same, you could keep Justus as forever Frankie part 2, and they go out and get Georgiev part 2, whoever that is, whoever that could be. It's an interesting little thing to keep an eye on. And going into the playoffs, how much experience is Justus getting in the regular season in garbage time, and will he see in the playoffs?
I agree with you in the fact that this could be the same thing with Grubauer, in that when Georgiev's contract is up, if he wants more, they'd be like, I don't know if we can't go much more. So I don't know, just something to like you said, something to just keep in the back of your mind and pay attention to as next year goes along.
Pay attention to the game within the game.
Right,
it's going to pay off next year too.
And don't think the Avalanche are thinking about this stuff. They're always thinking about, years ahead. I mean, it's at the forefront, on page 1 right now, but maybe it's rolling around in the heads. As far as this year goes, you had Jonathan Drouin gets his 50th point. I think he actually had another one on top of that. So I think he's at 51 for the year. Not his career high. He's got a few games to beat that, which I think was 54 or 55. He's close to it. I think he had 54 twice. In this first 3 years, I think he had 54. Either way, he's close to it. And even if he doesn't get it, it's still a tremendously successful season for him. It was a risk. It was a risk bringing him in. You just didn't know where his head was going to be. But I think it was the perfect situation for him. We talked about this many times. Getting back with his buddy Nathan McKinnon kind of just takes him under his wing. Hey, you don't have to worry about being the guy here. Just play your game. And he's gone from being moved up and down the lineup. I think he was healthy scratched a few times even early in the season, to now a solid kind of two-way player that you can rely on and is dangerous and can beat you with a scoring touch. And he's probably the best passer on the team. It's been fun to see Jonathan Drouin really kind of like reclaim his career. And, you only signed him for 1 year, but I kind of hope this goes longer. And I kind of hope he sees like this is a good spot for him. And while he probably could go based on this 1 year, I'm sure there's some team that wants to throw like, unnecessary money at him. But I think he's smart enough to know like, hey, if I go somewhere else, I might fall back into what I was doing in Montreal. So I'm going to stay right here where I'm nice and comfy, maybe take a little bit less and put up awesome numbers and, be in competition for a Stanley Cup every year.
Jonathan Drouin did score 53 in 16-17 and in 18-19. So he is 2 off from his career high.
Should beat it then. Yeah.
And it's incredible that he's having this kind of career resurgence, if you will. And does he price himself out of Colorado? Conversation for another day. Yeah. What he's doing currently right now with this team, it's Nichushkin 2.0. Except like Drouin, like he had success before, and it just kind of dried up.
Right.
And now he's returning to that form. I would anticipate him. It's the Nathan MacKinnon factor. You could see how they play with each other, and they have that kind of sixth sense for where the other is at all times.
Sure.
You would anticipate that being where he wants to stay, because I don't know if you could find this same level of success. He's traveled. He's tried to find it in Tampa and Montreal.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can find that anywhere else. Good luck if you want to go look. But what you bring to this team is appreciated. You're I have enjoyed watching Drouin all year long. And I hope he remains a member of this team going forward. But if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that he'd have 50 points at the deal that we signed him to, I would say bet.
I think I think the only way he would move on is if he can situate himself with another superstar like Nathan MacKinnon. You know what I mean? Like if Toronto wanted him or something like that, or Edmonton, or take your pick of the superstars in the league. I think
Connor Bedard.
That's an interesting one. Kind of, that's different. Well, it's interesting, but it's different because Bedard's not there yet. He's going to get there. Like, I think Drouin knows like this was a good situation for him because not much was expected of him. And to come in and do this is just, why not see what you can do next year? If this is what you did when you had a rough start to the season, tack on a month of Jonathan Drouin playing like this, he's already over 60 points.
Yeah.
Well over 60 points. So we'll see. Like, well, I'm sure we'll discuss that a lot in the offseason. But I think it'll be a fun conversation to have.
And this is a decade in. This is he's been in the league over a little over a decade. So for him to find his footing again, I mean, it speaks a lot to how the Avalanche roll and what they do. And it also helps having a guy named Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah, definitely. Mikko Rantanen with that empty net goal. That's his 40th goal on the season. And Cale Makar had an assist, which gives him the most assists in a season for an Avalanche defenseman. I'm telling you, man, like at the end of his career, we keep saying this, it's just going to be Cale Makar on everything when it comes to defensemen and just maybe overall stats for the Avalanche / Nordiques. But he's going to be at the top of literally every single category. I can't think of one that he's not going to be there. Maybe like penalty minutes because he doesn't get a lot of penalty minutes. But
I feel bad. I feel bad for the Colorado Avalanche social team because I think there are so many pictures of Cale Makar that they could put up for these infographics where it's like most this all time, and it's Cale Makar's like face looking this way or this way. I think they've run out of every picture they can. And it's incredible to watch Cale Makar. And this is quietly. We're what? Like, we're 25 minutes into our episode, and we're now just talking about Cale Makar broke another franchise record. you know,
Ho hum.
yeah, here we go. Cale
It's
Makar,
crazy.
this.
It is crazy.
It's one of those that, again, we talk about Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko, what they do night in, night out. It's one of those that it's hard to appreciate everything this team is doing individually and when it comes to the organization, but an all-timer, an absolute all-timer for the league.
Absolutely. All right. So a couple more things we got to get to. I want to touch on the Oilers game and then this multiverses game that the Avalanche are taking part in against Vegas. So we'll talk about that coming up next. All right. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, which we always call
the Nathan MacKinnon trilogy,
eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. And with all of the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, so the Avs obviously hit the road and get right back on the ice on Friday against Edmonton. That last game that they played against Edmonton was maybe that's up there, top 3 games of the year for the Avs. Super exciting game. Overtime, Lehkonen nets the goal with less than a second left to go. Awesome. So interesting to see how this plays out. But I have a graphic here that somebody tweeted out, and I don't know who it was. I apologize for that. I wish I could give them credit, but I just have the graphic. And it seems like it was just taken, like this was on the broadcast of whatever Edmonton game was playing. And it's the records this season for Edmonton versus the bottom 5 teams in the league, 10, 2, and 0. Versus teams ranked 16th to 27th, 21, 6, and 1. Teams ranked 11th through 15th, 7, 6, and 1. Teams ranked 6th through 10th, 3, 3, and 2. And the top 5 teams in the NHL, 4, 6, and 1. So that's a lot of numbers thrown at you. Just know from the top to the bottom, it gets. If you're an Edmonton fan, you take this as you can't. The top 10 teams in the league, you struggle against. Teams 16 through 32, you dominate. That says a lot, Kyle. At this stage in the season, that says a ton. You struggle 4, 6, and 1 against the top 5, and then 3, 3, and 2 against 6 through 10. And when you go into the playoffs, guess what? You're playing a pretty good team.
You're playing
is this fool's gold with the Edmonton Oilers here this year? I don't know.
Now the Edmonton Oilers, this is kind of par for the course. This is, you don't have to sit there and count individual games. All you have to do is look at the trophy cabinet for the Edmonton Oilers in the past decade, and you see it as bare. There's nothing there.
The only thing there is Connor McDavid trophies is what you have, which are good.
But
you don't have the trophy.
You talk about the Avalanche having the problem of playing down to opponents. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when they play quality opponents, it's a different Avalanche team. And we talked about the races that are going on right now with Cale Makar getting franchise records and incredible individual feats. Connor McDavid, he does a lot of individual feats as well, and is in that Hart conversation as well. Kucherov is trying to run away with the points. Nathan MacKinnon and Connor McDavid are there as well. And guess what? Mm-hmm. That'll be them going head to head. You get to watch the race between MacKinnon and McDavid and what they could do against Kucherov live in front of your eyes. So this will also be something fun to watch.
I know people are high on Edmonton. They are every single year. When you have the best player on the planet, like you're going to be. I get that. But like their start to this season, like we people have just seemed to have forgotten their start to this year that led to their coach getting fired. And then they went on I don't remember, was it 16, 17 game run? But those opponents are directly into that graphic. Those opponents during that streak, and it's an impressive streak. You win that many times at the professional level, congratulations. But they were bottom of the barrel teams. And hey, you did what you needed to do in beating those teams. You got your season back on track, and now you're in a playoff spot. But I think everybody's looking at it as like Edmonton is this dangerous team. They're somewhat dangerous because you have two fantastic players on that team. You have a good defenseman. Your goalie is finally starting to play a little bit better. But I still think over the course of a 7-game series, if you go up against a team like Colorado or even Dallas or even Vancouver, I don't think they can figure them out. I don't think they can figure a team out game after game after game in a playoff series. They can do it for one game and maybe beat you, but I don't know if they have the ability to really kind of, keep changing how they play, because that's what you have to do in the playoffs. You can't go out there and play the same game after game after game. You're going to get beat. You need to make adjustments. Can Edmonton do that against top teams? Remains to be seen. But that graphic just speaks volumes to me. Take it for what it's worth.
And you mentioned that winning streak that Edmonton went on. I think Nashville even stole the thunder from that winning streak. Like Nashville did it better and against better teams. Yeah. So like even that winning streak's not impressive anymore. So now Edmonton rolling around for Colorado, you're just looking at Edmonton like, oh yeah, you guys were kind of cool a couple of months ago.
They're good, and they'll be a pest. But I know there's some people that just want to catapult them to like, oh, get rid of that opening to the season and they're the best team in the league. I don't buy it. So
it's because all the other Canadian teams are all let down too.
Yeah, I think this will be a game, and it's always fun when you play Edmonton, but knock them down a peg maybe. All right, a couple more things we got to do. We got to talk about this multiverses game that the Avalanche are going to be taking part in against the Vegas Golden Knights. This is on April 14th. And this is similar to what we've been seeing over the past couple of years. The Avalanche do, or not the Avalanche, the league does the thing with Big City Greens. And it's just a recreation of the game that is live in cartoon form. And the NFL has even adopted this with, they had one, I think it was a game that was in London. They did it as Toy Story.
The Super Bowl was SpongeBob.
They do that with Nickelodeon and stuff like that. Yeah. So you're getting, these are fun. This is good. It's a way to reach obviously a much younger demographic and much younger generation. And when you put characters that they know out there and are just mimicking what is actually happening on the ice, it's kind of fun. But explain. So this is dude, like OGs of this show know, like I got my start in podcasting doing video game podcasts, and then have kids, and then your gaming basically goes away. So I have been out of the loop with gaming. For your kids are a little bit older than mine, so you've kind of kept in touch with it. What is this game? Let's start there. What is this game? It's called Multiverses.
That's correct. Multiverses.
And what is it all about?
It is a free-to-play fighter for everyone wants to know. It's like a Mortal Kombat.
Like Mortal Kombat, okay.
But it's free-to-play, and it's all Warner Brothers properties. So you can have Shaggy from Scooby-Doo fighting against Batman.
Okay.
It's all these Warner Brothers characters. They all have special moves. You can go to different like locations in Warner Brothers stuff. You get to fight. It's fun. It's just a whole fun time. They did like a beta a year or so ago. Everybody got to test it out, and now it's getting re-released, and it's going. And when it comes to this,
is it released yet or no? Is it out?
It's coming official. Yeah, it's out of beta. It's coming to an official release coming up this summer.
Okay. So it's kind of like a promotion for it too, then, is what they're doing, it seems.
And you mentioned those other games. I think this is like the NHL when they would do this. The Big City Greens game was always on ESPN Plus.
Mm-hmm.
This one's going to be on True TV.
Yeah.
So this
That's
is
good.
going to be the NHL's first, like, this is on network television. Like you're there. You're on your whatever provider you use, it's there. So you identifiable characters, which Big City Greens
Well, you know
is,
what?
it doesn't have that level of appeal, but
Yes.
Batman, Shaggy, all these other Warner Brothers, absolutely they do.
That's where I was gonna go with it. And while the Big City Greens thing is fun, it's not widely known.
No.
And I know it and you know it because like my kids love the show. And it's a funny show. It is
It's
actually
great.
it's one of those like cartoony shows that are actually like really funny. But you know, when the NHL first did this and then the NFL stole it, what'd the NFL do? They got Toy Story.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Toy Story. We all love Toy Story. And when that happened, I'm like, of course, NHL is Big City Greens, which next to nobody knows unless you have kids. And the NFL goes Toy Story. So they one up you. They 10 up you. This maybe brings it back a little bit more to the NHL. If you're getting Batman involved, I know, like I love Marvin the Martian. I think I looked at the roster of who's in this game. He's in it. Who else? Who are some other people in it?
You got Jake from Adventure Time.
Let me see. I got here's the roster. Yeah, obviously you have Bugs Bunny, Gizmo, Gizmo and Stripe, Rick and Morty, the Iron Giant, Tasmanian Devil. You got Batman, Wonder Woman, Tom and Jerry, Superman, Bugs Bunny. Yeah. So like more household names for people to latch on to. I think this is going to be a fun one.
And you're just, for me, my inner like 10, 12-year-old me, you're telling me the Colorado Avalanche will be represented by Shaggy and Batman?
Come on now.
Come on.
That is like,
It's
oh my
perfect.
goodness.
It's
Come
perfect.
on. They have to be Avalanche players though.
They have to be.
They cannot be Vegas players.
Oh, please don't make Nathan McKinnon Superman. Please just don't do that.
They probably will, now that you say that. Yeah.
That's gonna break my heart.
Yeah. I think it's fun. It's a fun thing that the Avalanche are a part of. And like I said, that'll be April 14th against Vegas. So be on the lookout for that. All right. Last thing that we're going to get to, and that is our sound check, where Kyle and I pick one song each that we feel best summarizes the most recent game. These songs go up on a playlist over on Spotify. Just search for LOA Sound Check. This one is volume number 3. That's what you got for Avalanche and Wild.
This is probably my first sound check submission with no lyrics. This is all vibe.
Okay.
And this is a Jamgrass band. This is a local band to the Boulder area.
Okay.
This is Leftover Salmon with 5 Alive. I love,
a fantastic band name.
oh
my god,
they are so good. It's a jam band, kind of like a Grateful Dead style jam band.
Okay,
but they play bluegrass. And 5 Alive, and I think they had like a deal with Hollywood Records, but no, they're from Colorado. They're a local band, so fantastic group.
All right.
But listen to this. Like, this is all the despair and sadness we had coming out of the Columbus game.
Yeah.
You got a glimmer. Like, you got reminded, hey, the regular season's almost over. Playoffs are coming. This team is in the playoffs. They're starting to put things together. This is a good squad, top to bottom. And when things are working, this is a good way to be. And coming out of Minnesota, playing desperate with 5 goals, 5 Alive. Listen to this song.
All right.
Yeah.
I want to listen to them just because of the band name.
It's great.
That is a wonderful band name. Kudos. Extra points for that, fellas. How you came up with that. I like it. I'm going to go with, we were talking earlier about kind of all the milestones hit in this game. You had the Drouin getting to the 50-point mark. Makar setting the record for assists for defensemen. Mikko Rantanen with the 40 points. it's all of those in total, but it's more like the one that sticks out to me is just the Jonathan Drouin, just getting to fit. Like I said, although it's not like a career high for him yet, just getting to that after what he's been through the past handful of seasons. I'm going with Muse, and the song is called "Take a Bow." And I think you should. I think you should live this one up, Jonathan Drouin, because it's it was a little murky for a little while in the beginning of the season. But you said this is like Nichushkin 2.0, and it kind of literally is. Nichushkin didn't get off to a hot start either when he came over, and he turned it around. So that's where I'm going. Take a bow, sir. Everybody.
Love a good Muse pick.
Gotta love a good Muse song. So, all right, that is going to wrap it up for today. Apologies for the lack of episodes this week. I told Kyle, and I feel like Cyclops with like my eyes just like bulging out of my head right now. I was just laser beaming everything that was in my sight. So feeling a little bit better. So come Monday, should be off LTIR completely and ready for the playoffs.
Vegas style.
I was just going to say, Vegas just signed me. Yeah. Vegas's ears just went red because they just heard LTIR and they just signed me immediately. So that's gonna wrap it up, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Have a good weekend.